Hello, welcome to this recording. This is a tutorial about how to put together the weekly newsletter. I'm here with Alice Sheridan, and we're just going to start with the basics, and then we'll get on to the actual newsletter itself. So the first thing I'm going to do now is to share the screen and to show my notes. And these notes can be given out to anybody who wants them later on. So the title of this is Lecture Notes, Updating the Write On Newsletter in Microsoft Word. First point to make is that the newsletter is done in Word, and it's simply one A4 page. That's what it is every week. We try to keep it to one page for the interest of brevity and so on. So this table here started out as a 3-column table like this. And what I do is I just narrow in this table to make essentially 2 columns, one on the left, one on the right, ignoring this little narrow one here for the time being. Now, what goes up into this box here is the newsletter heading, the Write On heading. And over here, we have the Write On logo and the date and volume number and whatever, issue number of the newsletter. So obviously all you have to do in this column is update the date and update the issue number and the volume number, what the things that go in the issue number, and just might as well put it in VOLUME volume number. And all you do is copy last week's and put in today's date and so on and so forth. Now, I want to say down this left-hand side, there is very little changes, if any. The left-hand side down here remains the same. When you are updating the newsletter, you need to come over to this side here, and you really need to fill in this column here. Notice I'm just putting in, making it a little bit bigger, and perhaps it depends on the week. You might have another smaller column here, or this could be small, that could be big, but essentially it's around here that we have to put in the information. Now I'm just going to skip down here for a second. What happens down here? What happens down here is a thing called WOWO. For those of you who don't know what WOWO means, it means what's on, write on. What's on, write on. WOWO. And each week we put down, I'm just going to put down, let me see, New Home by Alice Sheridan. Could go in there, and a pocket full of stories by Frank Pahey. That's basically what we're talking about. So every week there are different items to be shared, and we put it under the heading of WOWO, which is short for What's On, Write On. In fact, it's written in small letters. So essentially, now the reason I want to show you this background is that if you didn't know that the newsletter was based on a table, you could be down here writing an essay. Here I am trying to write a newspaper column for next week, and I cannot get over to the left hand side of my document. What is wrong at all? So if you didn't know that it was in a table, you would be saying, oh, listen, I wanted to write over here and over here, but I can't do it. So you needed to know that basic piece of information, that this table is the basis for the newsletter. Okay, so far, Alice?
Yep.
Absolutely. Okay. Introduction. Now, here are the notes. Introduction to the newsletter. Explain the purpose and the layout of the Write On. Well, the purpose of the newsletter is to keep in contact with our members, first of all, and also to keep updating our website, but also for outsiders like Galway County Council, the people who give us grant money or whatever. They like to get the newsletter to see that we're ticking over every week. that we're doing something every week. And when we apply for grants at whatever time of the year, they're able to say, oh, that's the Right On Group. Sure, I get a message from them every week. They're always doing something. They're publishing books, or but they have meetings every Thursday, and we're all up to date with it. So it's a very simple way of letting the general public know, as well as our members, that we are active and that we're doing something different every week, which we do. So that's the purpose of the Right On newsletter. Now, highlight the use of a table in Word to organize the content. That is where I started. That is what I started to show you, that it is a table. That even though it doesn't look like a table when you see the newsletter, it is a table, and it'll behave like a table. And any problems you might have writing in stuff and so on will be because it's a table, but we'll show you how to get around that. So understanding the table structure, describe how the table is divided into rows and columns. Point out that each box in the table represents a cell, represents a separate cell. All right on that? So this box here is the heading. As I said, this one here has its purpose. This is where we're going to put in our news and our photographs and whatever for the change. This is where the big change happens every week, here and here. So I'm just going to type 1 and 2 here, because these two paragraphs are central to what we're about. We just centered that there. So 1 and 2. Okay, and then all the rest is standard stuff. Obviously, if there's a new poem by somebody, you type it in, you take out the one that was done last year, and so on and so forth. But you do not try to write an essay down here, because you'll find that you don't have the space and whatever. Okay. Now, the other items that go in here, you'll see when we come to the newsletter what they are, but they do not change. Or if they change ever so slightly, like updating the date, or like updating the keywords for Mug of the Month competition. Small little things. So that's understanding the table structure. Describe how the table is divided into columns. Point out each box in the table represents a cell. So we point 1 and 2 done. Now the next thing, fixed elements of the newsletter. This is what I was saying. Identify the fixed elements that remain the same each week: the heading Right On newsletter, the Right On logo, and the date and issue information. I've already showed you that. Up here, this stuff remains the same. When I say remains the same, the headings remain the same. You change the dates and so on. That's all. Over here, sorry, I can add in another one: Mug of the Month competition, and new keywords every month. So you have 4 weeks of a newsletter where nothing changes. It just gives you the new keywords for January, the new keywords for February. So you've only a tiny bit to change there. All right so far?
Yep.
And down here then, just I can tell you what these items are more or less. Website address is down here. Contact details is down here. Contact details, and whatever else, details, DETAL, and down here somewhere is meeting details, or session meeting every Thursday 7 to 9, meeting details. That's what I mean when these things remain the same every week. They require little or no change. Okay. By the way, the ultimate purpose of this, Alice, is that you will be able, and anybody else that you train in after this, will be able to actually produce the entire newsletter, rather than just writing these 2 paragraphs here and sending them to me. You will be able to do the whole lot and actually produce the full newsletter, because it is not, and don't get me wrong, don't misunderstand me, but it is not rocket science once you understand what's in the background. And you'll see from the couple of examples we'll do. All right. So fixed elements, those are the fixed elements: the heading, the logo, and date and issue. Show the location of these elements in the table, and just after doing that. So essentially, just to repeat, the left-hand side requires very little, if any, change. The left-hand side more or less remains the same. This heading up here says the same, except for a date or something. It's here and filling in the WO. It's this part here that needs changing every week. That's it, simple as that. Now, fixed elements, editable sections of the newsletter. Focus on the 2 main areas your student will update: the 2 paragraphs beneath the title for weekly news, and the WO, what's on. Well, I'm just after saying that. The areas here and here and here are what we focus on every week. Okay. And that is very little writing, by the way. It's not as if you have to go off and write a complete newspaper or newsletter. It's a very small amount of stuff. And indeed, sometimes, just to let you know my personal experience, sometimes when I stuck, I say, oh God, what am I going to write about this week? What's happened with it? I think, oh yes, and you kind of, you look, it's not the Irish Times and it's not the New Yorker and it's not the New York Times. You can make up, there was a book published this week by Mary Rose. There's rumor of another book coming out. You can do rumors. You can do. There might be a photograph. Frank has introduced a image. What do you call it? A competition or a challenge for a new image for our website to change the Christmas image to a spring image. And on Thursday, we're going to have a vote. We're going to look at the various applications, the various images that are sent in to us, and we're going to have a vote. You can write a big story about that, massive story about that. And in fact, if you wish, you could put in, here is a sample of the sort of stuff we're looking for. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Now, editing text within table cells. Demonstrate how to click into a cell to start editing. Show how to type text and the cell will expand as needed. Well, I think I did that down here. You simply click into a cell and you start writing and the cell will expand. I'm clicking into this cell here, just a random cell. Here is an example of how a cell works within a table. As you can see, the cell expands as the writing increases. You see the way it's going down, getting bigger and bigger the more you write? Now, there are various hints and tips for changing things around. For example, see that there, that is up here, you'll see it's 12-point bookman.
Yeah.
Well, for example, lots of people can read 11-point. Now, if I was stuck for space, I could make all the writing 11-point, and I quite frequently do, because most people are going to be reading this newsletter on screen. And if you need to see this small piece of writing, you know, and I know that the simple thing you can do is zoom. You can zoom in to 200, and somebody with a computer can zoom in and make the text bigger. So, you know, when we say 10-point might be too small for a book, but look, you can expand it to 500 if your eyesight is very bad. So you don't have to say, oh, 10-point is hardly legible. It doesn't matter that much because we can move we can make our screens bigger and smaller, whichever way we want to. Okay. So that's that bit. Now, editing text. Demonstrate how to click into a cell to start editing. Show how to type text and the cell will expand as needed. That's what we've done there. Now, updating the date. Guide them on updating the date for each issue. Emphasize the importance of keeping this information current. Well, I think it's fairly obvious you have to update the date every week. Added content to the WO section. I mentioned this already. Explain the purpose of the WO section. The purpose of it is to tell our audience what is coming up next week, what is coming up at the Thursday session. What can they expect? A poem by Kathleen Phelan, a new story by Mary Rose, as extract from the novel by Jutta, and so on and so forth. The different items that we have. Now, I have to say to you, washing my hands in public here, we don't always have all of the material in by the time the newsletter is published. But we don't let that stop us. We publish, we let people know what we have in, but everybody knows that somebody might send in something on Wednesday night or on Thursday morning. And if we have space, we'll slot it in. And again, just explain to you, Alice, some weeks we have too much material, as you may already have seen, and we shove things into the following week. But my tendency with the WO is to put in as much as we can. And if we get through it all, well and good. Sometimes we won't get through it all in the meeting, and some of the yokes will carry over into the next newsletter. That's the nature of the beast. For this Thursday coming, we're extremely light on material, extremely light. In fact, as I speak, I only know of one short story so far, and it's from James Conway. And other than that, I don't think we've anything in. So there'll be quite a bit of creativity going on here what I often do is I issue a challenge to people. I give them a topic to write about, or like the painting or the drawing challenge this week. That will use up some time. And listen, I could do an impromptu tutorial, or we can always go back as well, because we have quite a number of new members that haven't seen half the stuff we've done since 2017. So I can always go back and pick some of the highlights from what we've already done and some of the wonderful poems, songs, and stories that we've done. And I think the older members or the regular members don't mind going down memory lane and looking at some of this stuff again, because we tend to forget what we've done in the 6 or 7 years since we started. You know, there's loads of stuff there. So we're never short of material, okay? Stress now, maintaining consistency. Stress the importance of not altering the fixed elements. Discuss the need for a consistent format and style for reader familiarity. Well, since I started doing the newsletter, I've kept the exact same formula that I'm explaining to you here, so people know where to look for the new information. They also, oh, what's the email address for Write On? Oh, I know where to find it. It's on the newsletter on the left-hand side at the bottom. Or how often, what time do the meetings start? It's on the left-hand side, and so on. All the information you need on one page about Write On is contained in this newsletter. So that's saving and the guide on saving the document after editing. We can do that. Briefly touch on how the newsletter is distributed. I won't labor that, but I can show you. Perform a live demonstration of updating the newsletter, which I'll do in a minute. Encourage the student to try updating a mock newsletter, and then a question and answer session, allowing time for the student to ask questions, provide clarifications where necessary. Okay, and that is the full extent of this tutorial. Before I go on to the actual newsletter and to put this, we'll say, into the full context, do you have any questions at this point?
The template, as I asked you in the very early stages of this, do I download the template? Do I create a template?
No, sorry. The first part is right. You download the template. The template is created for you.
Okay, so how do I download that? Where do I download it from?
That's what we're going to look at in just a second. We're going to do that in just 1 second now. So, sorry, is there any other question?
No, I think everything else is fairly clear.
Okay, everything else very clear. So you do not have to worry about creating the template. What I wanted to show you here was how the template was created, so that you understand it's a template. It's not just a raw page. So right now we're going to look at, ta-da, there we go. This is exactly what I was talking about. So up here, let's look at the different elements again. And by the way, we can now, just to hone it in, we can flick back up here. So up here is the newsletter heading. Let's have a look. Newsletter heading. Over here is that little 10 column I created, and I got rid of all the lines. So that column now becomes a gap, a space. That's the only purpose of that little column. Now over here we have the logo, the volume number, the date, and so on. What did we say up here? Over here we have the Write On logo, the date, the issue, the volume number, and so on. Okay, you can see how it works. See, this is the blank space there, that little one. Now down, let's look at the left-hand side first of all. Down here we have Mug of the Month, MOTM, Mug of the Month, picture of it. Mug of the Month, keywords for January, fine and tune. Actually, something has gone wrong with that type, but never mind. The words are fine and tune, closing date 21st of January 2023. Nothing to be done with that, because our issue isn't up to 20. And by the way, Anne Murray posts her email addresses in there. There's something gone slightly wrong there, but don't worry about that for now. Underneath this, it says share. Please forward this newsletter to other people who are interested in writing. That never changed from the very first day I wrote it 6 years ago. It hasn't changed. Contact. How do we get contact? There is something just gone slightly amiss, because the COM should be on one line, but we'll get back to that in a minute. Contact, writeon.galway@gmail.com is the official email address for the group, writeon.galway@gmail.com. And our website is www.writeon.ie. So these items do not change except for, and you know this already, it's volume 5. We've done 4 volumes. By the way, volumes usually start at the beginning of a new year.
Mhm.
And volume 4 ended in December. Or rather, I stopped producing the newsletter for a while. I simply hadn't the energy or the time, whatever, and I wondered how many people were reading it. But you know all that background. But anyway, starting a new session in January, we start with volume 5, issue 1. Next week's one will be volume 5, issue 2. Very good, very good. Way. And the date has to be updated as well. So if we were to start with this newsletter, no, I'm not going to do it yet. Down the left-hand side, as I said at the outset, very little change. So the change, and no change to the right-on newsletter up here. Now, I have to say, at Christmas time, if you noticed, I put up holly and berries and snowmen and all sorts of stuff up here, just to make it Christmassy. I changed the overall color to red to make it Christmassy, red and green, I think. Anyway, welcome to the first newsletter of 2024. That's a piece that can be changed. The right-hand group launches into this year with the force, blah, 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 blah. You wrote this, and what I did was I trimmed it down so that it would fit. I took out, you know that, I took bits out. And we can put in photographs, diagrams, whatever, wherever we want them. And then here's the WO. Now you'll notice this is on 2 pages. That's because I've it's all supposed to fit on 1 page. And I will get that in a second. So here's the WO for the 11th of January. In very small writing, just in case people don't know what WO is, it says what's on right on this week. Okay. Now, the genre is a novel extract, the funeral chapter, Jutta Rosen, short story. And now there's an example, name to follow. I didn't have the name of Mary Hudson's short story when I was publishing it. So I just said name to follow, Mary Hudson. Short story, I only stayed once. Short story by Alice Sheridan, Cockaliki Soup. Poem, Sent to a Sinner. Poem by Pauline Brennan. Poem by Pauline Brennan. And a review, discussion of new publications, all members. Right. Okay, so that is what I tried to do there was to take the theory from up here and to show you the practical application of it down here. All good?
Yep.
Okay, now you're asking me a practical question. How do I go about doing it? How do you go about doing it? Well, the best way to do that is to do it. So I'm going to start a new document. I think the reason some of the stuff hopped out of place, do you want to save that? Yes, save that. So I am going to now, what I do, and I'm going to talk my way through it until I'm ready to share, but this is what I'm doing. I have a file called newsletter. I have volume 1, volume 2, volume 3, volume 4, volume 5. I have every newsletter we ever printed, and I have them all here. But now I'm gone to the volume 5, issue 1, and that is where I'm going to start. I'm going to get the document for volume 5, issue 1 open on my desktop. So share screen again, volume 5, issue 1, and there it is. Now you'll notice this time, because it's not attached to anything else, it all fits on 1 page. It finishes down here.
Yeah.
Right. Now the first thing I can do is click on that photograph and get rid of it. It's gone. I simply clicked on it and pressed delete on my keyboard. The next thing I can do is I can leave that, because we might leave that thing there. Let's just take out this bit. Just take out these 2 paragraphs for a minute. See, I've created space, and take out that bit there. So what I've done is highlight it and delete with the keyboard. So now I have and we need a new title. I'm just doing that now. I'm just pressing delete on my keyboard. Those, by the way, are just 2 rocket ships taken off, just a little, I don't know. It was actually to indicate the launch, 2 launches. but I'm going to take them out now and you can come up with your own fancy doodads. So there's your heading space. Here's your writing space. And here's, now, let's see. We've done the funeral chapter, but you can go through these
Well,
individually. You can go through these individually, or you can, sorry. Now, there's an example. Look, I selected the whole cell and it asked me, do I want to delete the cell? No, I don't. Because
No.
if I delete the cell, I'm going to delete the little
Yeah.
box. So cancel that, go back in and just select the name and delete it that way, one thing at a time. Now, so now I've a novel extract. We may not have a novel extract. So the first thing I told you was, what, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah. First thing that I know about that's coming up is short story, S-H-O-R-T, short story, S-T-O-R-Y. I don't know what the name of it is, but I know the author's name is James Conway.
Right.
And again, just for variety, you can change the color of the names and change all this to different colors, whatever way you want. That name to follow is Mary Hudson. She was done last week. She's gone. I'm going to take this. I only stayed once. Anita Freeman has not appeared for so many weeks. Whether she's ill or has lost interest, I don't know. But she wrote a wonderful story. And I've been trying to get it read again, but now I'm taking it out. And if she does appear, Cockaliki Soup, we don't want that anymore. Thank you very much. Alice is gone. Do you see what I'm doing? Just replace these things. Now, Seamus Keogh has been very ill, and every now and again he says he'd try and make an effort to get to the meetings. So I've left in Scent of a Sinner there. Just again, I think it's probably nearly time we took it out. We've had it in for weeks after week after week. So I'm going to take it out. If he does appear, we'll dig it out. Okay, so I'm taking out that. We did The Rise by Pauline Brennan. That we did that one. That's Pauline Brennan. That's the other girl whose name you were looking for. And All Souls was the other poem we did by her. I'm just going to leave her name there in case you want to jot it down. Now, discussion of new publications. We can certainly leave that because I want to show you. I'm going to just stop sharing for a second and just take a very quick aside, if I may. And I'm going to get rid of my background image. Choose virtual background, none. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to show you what arrived yesterday, a Sunday, mind you. Yesterday.
Ta-da!
The hardback.
Excellent.
The hardback came.
Oh, wow.
Hardback. Isn't that beautiful?
Absolutely.
Now, first of all, the date for next meeting is 1 and 7, the 18th. Is it next Thursday? Is
today's 15th, isn't it? 15th, 16th, 17th.
Well, the 11th was last
19th.
week. Let me see. We're in January.
18th.
It's the 18th. Add 7 to 11.
Yeah.
So look at, I'm changing the date to 18th.
Okay.
I'm going up here, issue 2. I'm changing the 2, the 1 to 2. I'm changing the date to 18. Now, even though the newsletter might go out a day or two before the meeting, I still put the 18th on it, okay?
Well, yeah, it would have to be, because that's, yeah.
Mug of the month stays the same. Fine and Tune, closing date 21st of January. So that stays the same. There's no change there. Share, no change there. The email is still correct. The website is correct, and the Zoom sessions. So Alice, there you jolly well pop. There is a template. Now, when you get more used, all you have to do is fill in that gap there and put a heading. I'm going to do this, Alice Sheridan's heading. Okay. Now, if you don't want it in yellow, you can get rid of the yellow up here. Do you see this yellow highlighter?
Yes, yes.
You could change it to green if you wanted to. I've changed it to green and go over. Now it's green. The whole lot is green. Press undone, edit, undone, undo, highlight, gets rid of that. Edit, undo, highlight, gets rid of that. We're back to the yellow. But if you don't want it highlighted, these are just small technical things you can find out. But if you don't want it highlighted, you can highlight it and go up here to this color. Can you see this colory thing here?
Yes, yeah,
and just say no color. So now there's
yeah.
no color.
Mm.
And if you want it in bold, why is it taking? I just want to highlight the Alice Sheridan's heading, and we go up here to bold, italic, underline, bold.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
bold,
yeah,
italic,
yeah.
and so on.
Mm.
So there you go. Is
Yeah,
there
no,
any?
the only thing is, as I said, that is now appearing while I'm talking to you.
Uh-huh.
Now, how do I get that to appear on my screen?
I am
I've
going
never
to,
had anything to do with production.
right, I am going to send it to you by email this moment.
Right, so I just download it from the email.
That's it. Download from the email.
Right, fine. That was the only thing. See, when I worked on newspapers and that, basically what we went by was, there were very strict guidelines, obviously, but it would be the width of a column, the amount of words per column.
Yeah.
And that would be it. Now we'd have a production manager, graphic designer, photographers, the works.
Yeah.
So that's why I never had any hands-on with this end of it. So
Yeah.
this is
Well,
fascinating.
you'll
Oh, I have
very
fun
quick.
here.
You'll very quickly realize when you've written your 6,000 words here that they won't fit. And then
Yeah,
you might
yeah,
have to
I
do,
know.
well,
Yeah, that's usually my problem.
you'll very quickly learn how much it'll take and whatever. And don't forget, it's
Yes,
not, it's
it's not written in stone.
this information here is important to people to have
Yeah,
at their fingertips.
yes,
This
yeah,
information here can be whimsical, it
yeah,
can be humorous, it can be, as long as
but it needs to be applicable.
it needs to be applicable. And if you're stuck sometime, I'm always around to come up with an
Yeah,
idea or two if
yeah,
you want to.
great. And so far with what we have in is just the short story from
Just a
James
short story.
Conroy.
What I will do is I'd leave those, don't delete those spaces, even though there's nothing to go in
No,
them yet.
no,
I will bring you up to date with the new stuff as it arrives in. And
right,
again, at the last minute, when you send it to me, I may have I'll come up with some idea, maybe a challenge for the group or something to keep us
spark
gainfully
the
occupied.
interest. Yeah,
Yeah, so don't worry too much. Yeah, sometimes you'll have too many items. We won't be able to fit them all. Sometimes you'll have too few.
okie dokie.
The danger is that, you might try to start writing. Like the only way you're going to find this out really is by doing. But
Yeah,
you might find that I'm not able to go down into this space. It may be, look, that it may be that there is a box down
there's
here
so
that
much
you
there.
don't see.